Great. So welcome everyone to MAC's 2022 MicroGrant information session. My name is Sherry Murray and I am the communications producer here at Mississauga Arts Council. This session will be presented by my colleague, who is actually right next to me, Susan Durnan, MAC's administration lead.
Great. So the Mississauga Arts Council acknowledges that the land on which we gather is part of the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and Wyandot nations. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land and give our respect to these peoples and their ancestors who have been inhabitants of this land since time immemorial. We also recognize that Mississauga is now home to many global Indigenous peoples.
Now, Mississauga Arts Council is dedicated to enabling the growth of the arts by creating opportunity and connection between artists and residents in Mississauga and beyond. Celebrating our milestone 40th anniversary this year, the Mississauga Arts Council is a registered charity dedicated to accelerating progress towards the attainment of our vision of Mississauga as a vibrant cultural community where arts and culture thrive. I would now like to turn it over to MAC's Executive Director, Mike Douglas, to say a few opening remarks.
Hi, everybody. It's too bad you had to turn your cameras off. It's always fun to see you, even if it's only on a screen, but we're getting there. And that is exciting. I've been to a few live events and it is different. It feels different. You know, you really appreciate it more, obviously, for it being gone so long. So we're pleased, we're excited to have something new to offer in our MicroGrant menu this year. And, you know, frankly, we're hoping to have more next year. So it's great to see you, and we wish you all the very best of luck. We hope that you've got some great stories to tell when these projects are completed and we can brag about you, and look forward to that. So please have a good meeting. I'm going to turn it back to Susan. And before I do, though, please come to the Martys. It's a statement occasion. It's a time when we do need to come together. We need to show that we've survived all this and that we're looking forward to better times, but doing them together as a community, as people who know each other, care about each other, and support each other. And so at the May 19th, we need to show up. We want that mayor to be in a head count mode, and she looks out amongst her friends in the crowd and knows that we're alive and well and thriving, and that this whole ecosystem of ours matters greatly to the future of this city, as you do. So what you're doing really matters, and we're delighted to be a part of it. So have a great meeting. I look forward to seeing you in person soon, maybe even before the Martys, but certainly at the Martys. Okay. So thanks, Susan, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. And without further ado, let's talk microgrants, everyone. Perfect. So we're here to talk microgrants today. And in the information session today, we're going to go over what are MAC MicroGrants, who's eligible for a microgrant, what are the funding streams for 2022, what are the application requirements, and we'll also go through the application web form. Then we'll talk about microgrant assessment, important dates and deadlines, and then it'll open up for questions. So if you do have questions, please use the chat function. Sherry's going to be keeping an eye on it. If she can answer it right away, she will. If we think it's really great and we want to address it out loud, we absolutely will do that too. So right into it, what are MAC MicroGrants? MAC's dynamic and impactful microgrant program provides funding for artist-led projects, which have a pronounced and impactful connection to the public and bring recognition and increased awareness to the arts across the city. Each year, we accept applications from artists and art groups, collectives in targeted funding streams. Applications are reviewed by an independent peer assessment jury who select the winning projects. This year, MAC will provide $36,000 in microgrants across 6 funding streams to artist-led projects and initiatives. If you would like to learn more, we have the website here. It's mississaugaartscouncil.com/microgrants. And we have lots more information about our program there. So who can apply for a microgrant? Unless otherwise stated, our microgrants are available to individual artists and unregistered groups and collectives living in or based in Mississauga. That means you have a home residence or a work residence in Mississauga proper. And this year we do have a couple of grants that are open to registered groups. So do keep an eye on that. So geography, again, applicants must be a Mississauga-based individual or unregistered group collective. Multiple applications. Applicants can only apply for one funding stream and it can only be one application. So if you're interested in more than one funding stream, sorry, you're out of luck. You can only apply in one with one project. If you are a previous microgrant winner, you are eligible again this year. It needs to be a different project than we funded in the past. And all of your final reports for any outstanding grants need to be submitted before you can apply. So do keep that in mind. If you have any questions about whether your previous project has been completed or not, please send me an email. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So now the project eligibility. So we just talked about who can apply. Let's talk about what project would you can apply with. So again, geography. All projects must take place or have the majority of the work completed in Mississauga. This year, all successful microgrant projects must include a free public experience. It could be digital, a virtual concert or a virtual workshop, or it could be a live performance, a live exhibition, a live event open to the public for Mississauga residents. Again, if you have any questions about what constitutes this, please reach out to us. Eligible projects must be focused on arts and culture in Mississauga and follow the guidelines listed for each particular funding stream. Projects that have been previously funded through any of MAC's MicroGrant or Matchmaker MicroGrant funding streams are not eligible to receive additional funding. And then the project completion date must be, you must have the work done by September 30th. And all final reports are due by October 28th. Great. I see Sherry typing away. Are there any questions that we want to address there?
Not at the moment.
Okay, great. So you're eligible, your project's eligible. What's next? So next is our funding streams. This year, we're offering 6 funding streams. So we have our Matchmaker MicroGrants, and we have 5 winning projects that can receive a Matchmaker MicroGrant. Then we have our dramatic short film microgrant, and we'll give one of those away. We have our theater in the park microgrant, and again, one of those. We have an arts for mental health program development microgrant, one of those. A dance on film microgrant, again, we're offering one. And then a poetry slam curation microgrant, and we're offering one of those. So let's go through the funding streams. The first one, and the one we get the most questions about because it is so open, is our Matchmaker MicroGrants. So with these ones, they're designed to help artists start or complete a project. This year, you can receive up to $2,000 in matching funds for money raised by sponsorship, investment, and in-kind contributions. So what does that mean? It means you have to show in your budget that you have some sort of revenue already, and we will match it up to $2,000. So that confirmed revenue could be that you got a grant from somewhere else. It could be that someone, a business or someone else sponsored your project and has given you money. It could be that someone has given you space, right? If you don't have to pay for your venue, that might be $500 that you would have had to pay out of pocket. Now you don't have to. That counts. And the other one would be if you have volunteers on your project. Those volunteer hours are hours that you don't have to pay a staff member, and that counts as confirmed revenue as well. That's what we call in-kind contributions, which are basically volunteer hours or gifts or services or venue, or someone donated the costumes to your play. That's an in-kind contribution. So with our Matchmaker MicroGrants, The project can be from any artistic discipline. It must have at least one source of confirmed revenue, which we spoke about. It must include artist fees for more than one professional artist. And it must include a performance, exhibition, event, video, etc., for Mississauga residents to experience free of charge. Other than that, it's wide open. Be creative, be exciting. Any questions about that one?
Oh, I just got one coming through that I'll look at in a minute, but I have one on what do the final reports entail?
Excellent question. It's not very much. I have a template that you can fill out. Basically, we want to know, what was your project? What did you learn? You know, we need a finalized budget showing how you spent your money. Who was involved in your project? How many artists? How many audience? Just those sorts of numbers that we can use. We actually have, we call it our MicroGrant success page. We're really proud of the projects that we've supported in the past, and we want to celebrate the achievements of these artists. And so we highlight them on the MicroGrant success page. And each one, it talks a little bit about the project, some photos, maybe a quote. And not only does it help the project get a little extra boost, it shows off the really cool things that we've been able to support through our projects. So that's really where the final report comes in, is just, yes, my project happened. Here's some cool things. Here's what I learned. Here's what happened. Here's how wonderful it was, is kind of what we're going for with those. It's not too involved. The budget, you know, updating your budget with how you spend the money is the biggest part of the final report. And I promise it's not that hard. And we can help you with it if you really need. Okay, anything else?
I have a question about, so somebody's looking to create the funding, let's say for Matchmaker for the creation of their CD. They're asking that the project must take place or have the majority of the work completed in Mississauga. Would that mean recording, mixing, and mastering taking place in Mississauga?
I mean, yes.
Yes.
In some ways, but that said, I mean, the songwriting itself taking place in Mississauga is a huge part of developing your CD, and that would also count. Basically, what we want to do, we're creating a big, arts community and trying to boost the arts community here in our city. So ideally, with the money from our microgrants, we want to support local as much as we can, and that's sort of where that, majority of the work in Mississauga is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, this is a new one this year. This is our dramatic short film microgrant. So we have one of these for $8,500. There are so many talented filmmakers in our city, and we want to support them. So this microgrant is for a filmmaker or a writer-filmmaker partner duo to create a dramatic short film. Pitch us your story, pitch us your script, and make it exciting. Our jury will pick the one that intrigues them the most. And at the end of the project, we'll help with a live screening for Mississauga audiences. Again, this one's pretty open. There's no parameters on what your story needs to be. It can be anything, make it exciting. So in your pitch, we need a detailed script outline. If you already have a full script, great, absolutely send it in. If you don't, if you're still in developing your script, that's fine. Just give us a really detailed outline of what your short film is going to be. And then we need a feasible budget with all of your expenses and revenues as well. The film itself, ideally, we want it shot in Mississauga, that's on set or on location in our city. We want it to include Mississauga talent and crew, both on screen and off screen. We want Mississaugans involved. The film itself, a minimum of 7 minutes and no more than 15 minutes. So that's that. A very exciting new one. Question about this one?
I have a question about this one. As it's supposed to be available to the public, should we make sure the topic is family friendly?
Yes, but we also don't want to put parameters. There's a lot of topics that are great and should be explored that are not, general audience. And that's okay too. I think, yeah, send us an email. Let's talk.
Yeah.
That's sort of the end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely open to things. And we don't want to put creative limitations. where we might not need to.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we have our Theater in the Park microgrant. Again, one of these for $6,000. This one's actually a two-parter. It's one we've run in the past. So the first part of this grant, which will probably take place this year, part two can take place in the future, or this year if you're wild and crazy and like to get things done quickly. So part one of this, you're going to write and design an original play for no more than 6 cast members, and the play should be a minimum of 40 minutes. The play should also be suitable for performance as a theater in the park experience for a general adult audience. Part two of this one, you're going to cast and produce the play in a Mississauga park for one night that's free to the public. If it's going to run for multiple nights, as long as one night is free, we're good to go. MAC will help provide the park site at no cost to you. And that's that. It's a pretty open and exciting one. Again, the subject matter is up to you. Intrigue us, be creative. Any questions on that one?
I have one more about the previous one. the
Okay, about our
dramatic-
dramatic short film.
Yes, so they're asking more about probably more the jury process. Is establishing a point system for figuring out, for example, you might not get all the crew might not be Mississauga residents. So what would that entail?
Ultimately, it's up to the jury. I think if your project is by far the best, that has more weight than counting up the number of people from Mississauga involved.
Mhm.
But if it's between 2 equal projects and one is 100% Mississauga and one is only 30% Mississauga, that's where that weighting would come in. So hopefully that's a good answer. Ultimately, we do hire a independent jury to select the winners. And so although we sit in on the jury, we're not the decision makers, and it's up to the jury. Okay, so moving on, this is another new one. It's our Arts for Mental Health Program Development Microgrant. It's a mouthful. We have one, and that's $5,000. So with this one, back in October of last year, we held our Arts for Mental Health conference. We brought together leaders from the health industry and the arts industry to talk about the benefits that the arts have on mental health and mental wellness, and what might be involved in getting, some sort of a program going where artists were providing programs that had therapeutic benefits, not necessarily therapy programs, but benefits to the participants. And so this microgrant is geared towards that. It's some sort of a program where the participants in your program will have, mental wellness benefits from participating. Eligible programs must include, eligible program proposals must include the details of the program outcomes and how these outcomes will be measured. A minimum of 4 professional artists paid for their services to deliver the program, a minimum of 10 clients or participants served at no cost, a minimum of 5 weeks worth of 90-minute workshops for participants. The programs must be available in person or virtually, free of charge to the recommended residents or prescribed participants. This grant is open to registered groups and collectives. So that's different than a lot of our other grants and something to note. There's probably some questions in the chat on this one, are there?
Not yet, most likely probably coming through. I have more of a question about timeline. So for example, the project will not be completely over until November for the exhibit that they're trying to apply for Matchmaker. Would they be able to apply to funding for an earlier phase of the required timeline?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as your microgrant is done by the end of September, even if it's part of a bigger project. I think that is acceptable. Yeah, so anyway, if there's more questions about Arts for Mental Health, we can absolutely come back to it. Let's get through a couple more. So the next one is our Dance on Film microgrant. Again, not a new one. This has been quite popular. We have one available for $4,500 this year. And what we want to do is we want our dancers, dance groups, choreographers to get creative and think about their next dance production and how it can be on film rather than, in a theater. Tell us an intriguing, engaging story. We will help promote your video. This dance film must include artist fees for the performers. It must be between 7 and 15 minutes in length and involve at least 4 dancers. Other than that, again, be creative. Tell us a fun story. And finally, our 6th funding stream this year is Poetry Slam Curation MicroGrant. We have one available. So we are reaching out to poets, spoken word performers. MAC is going to host a poetry slam, and we want you to curate it. Who's going to be there, and why is this event going to be the best poetry slam of the year? As Mike mentioned earlier, in-person events are starting up. We're really excited to get back together, and this is going to be a fun event for our literary friends to get together and perform. MAC will provide the venue, we'll arrange for ticket sales, and we will do a video recording of the night that we'll put on our social media channels, so it'll get a little bit further out there. Make sure your budget includes artist fees and any other fees that might be a part of the event. So there we go.
Okay. So for example, they've been asked to participate in another applicant's project. Does that disqualify them from applying for their own project?
No, you can be involved in multiple projects, but you can only apply for one. So your project and the projects do need to be independent of each other rather than trying to apply for different projects or different parts of the same project. So if you're a dancer and you've applied for a Matchmaker grant for your project, but then the person, your friend is doing a dance on film microgrant and wants you to be one of their dancers, that's okay, because it's their project and your project, as long as you're not a creative lead on the other project.
One of them's asking that if their mother writes poetry in Punjabi, would that be eligible for the poetry slam?
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be great. I
would love that.
I know. It got us excited. Yes, absolutely. Just because I only speak one language, it doesn't mean that's in, I love when people speak other languages. It's so wonderful. And I think that would really add something special to a poetry slam.
Mm-hmm. So there's one about a communication plan, if applicable. Can you explain this? So I can probably talk.
This is one for Sherry to answer. Absolutely.
So really, we're looking for a communications plan for the promotion that you're going to do into this project. So we'd be looking for a general sense of how you're going to get the word out there, because this does involve a public free performance virtually or in person. So I'm looking to see, what are your plans? Are you going to reach out to media? Are you going to put it on social media? What are you going to do to get this out there? That's what we're looking for to answer this question.
Fantastic. And the information we're talking about today, you can find in our guidelines. They're available through our website. You can see the link here. This is to get the actual PDF, but there are buttons throughout our microgrants page to get to the guidelines. And lots of the information is in here as well. The last question kind of got us started on application requirements. Again, the application requirements, I'll have a quick look. I think it's page 7. And it lists off everything that you need to fill out our web form. So this year we have a web form. You can see the link here. It's form.jotform and a huge number. Again, our guidelines link to it, our website links to it, so you can find it easily. If you're struggling, reach out to us. We'd be happy to send you the link. Well, a couple of things about our web form to note is you cannot save your answers and return to edit them later. So please make sure you have all your application materials prepared before you start completing the web form. I highly recommend, and Mac is with me on this one, write your answers in a separate Word document. Again, all the questions are in the guidelines, so you can just use that as your questions. In a Word document, you can write down your answers. That way you can also double check your spelling. You can make sure that your answers are exactly the way you want them. Then you can go to the web form and just copy and paste into each question. Also, before you submit your application, there is an option to review your answers, and you can print a copy of your application. Highly recommend. So please take advantage of this review, because you can only submit one application. So make sure you have a chance to do that. Let's just go through the application requirements, and then I think I will get Sherry to share her screen, and we'll just walk you through the web form so that you know what it is you're looking for. So our web form is split into 3 sections. The first section is contact information. So this is just so that we know who you are. The only information that will be shared with the jury is your applicant name, and if applicable, your organization, group, artist name. So for me, my applicant name is Susan Durnan. My organization is the Mississauga Arts Council. If you're representing yourself or your artist name isn't different than your personal name, you can skip that question. It's not important. And that's the only information here that's going to be shared with the jury. The rest is just so we can contact you if you were successful. Page 2, section 2, this is the big stuff. This is about your project. This is what's going to the jury and what they're going to be reviewing. So first off, project title. Doesn't have to be long. Make it snappy. It'll be great. Then we want your project elevator pitch. So we just want, it's a quick description of your project. It doesn't have to be artistic. We just want to know what it is. So an example we have in our guidelines is, our project title is, short and snappy, string quartet tour 2022. Our project elevator pitch would be string quartet tours British Columbia from May 1st to June 1st, 2022. It's not very exciting, but in a list, it just describes what your project is. And that just helps us, just as we're going through the projects, to know what everything is. Where you can get creative is your detailed project description. This is important. Tell us about your project. Tell us how exciting it is. Tell us how impactful it is. Tell us what's going on. Then we have project personnel and partners. This is where you can say, I'm in charge of this project, but I'm also working with this person, and here are their roles. If it's a solo project, you wouldn't need to fill that out. If you don't know everyone who's going to be involved in your project yet, that's okay. Tell us everything you can. Next up, how will this project help the artistic and career development of those involved? So we want your project to help other people grow as well, and to help you grow in your career. So this is where you can tell us why this project is going to help people in their artistic career. Next up, what is the artist connection to the Mississauga arts sector, and how will this project positively impact audiences, communities in Mississauga? So again, this is maybe kind of the question we were talking about before of how many people from Mississauga are involved in your project, right? Or why is it that you're connected to the growth of the Mississauga arts sector? That's what this question is looking for. How does your project contribute to the sector? Next up is our proposed project schedule and work plan. What do you have to do? When are you going to get it done? And, is it reasonable to get it done by September 30th? That's what that one is. Next up, our proposed communications plan. So again, depending on your project, this might not be applicable, but as Sherry mentioned, all of our microgrants this year have that the free public performance or exhibition element to them. And so there will be at least a little bit of, here's when the event is going to be, and here's, I'll make the Facebook event here, and I'll, the different steps of leading up to that live event. Also, your plan for telling MAC what you're doing and how we can help you get people out to your event. And then next up, we have a detailed project budget. This is really important. You know how much the microgrant is, and we want to see that, for the Matchmaker MicroGrants, it has to include some revenue. The other ones, it doesn't necessarily, but we want to see, what are you going to do with the money? Are these numbers reasonable? And that's what your budget has to have. And finally, the last question on project information is, does your project have a free public performance exhibition element? Please describe. So as you've probably noticed, because we keep coming back to it, it needs to have that free public element, performance element. But we just want to know, you don't have to go into a ton of detail, but we want to know where it is, what the plan is. All right, and section 3, support materials. This is also going to be going to our peer assessment jury. So the first question is your artist organization project website. How do we learn more about you? If you don't have a website, then your Instagram or your Facebook, whatever you use as your primary sort of public facing internet site. That's what we want there. We also need an artist organization CV or resume. Just what have you done? Tell us about your work history. Give us an idea of your qualifications. The next thing we need is a biography. It doesn't have to be long, but we do use biographies in our press releases. And again, it just adds a little bit more context to what is stated in your CV and resume. And so the jury might want to look at that. We also need 3 work samples that demonstrate your ability to complete this project. So we have it set up that you can use links or upload documents. You can actually upload more than 3 the way the web form is set up, but we don't want more than 3. Use any combination of the links or documents and give us 3 samples. And we want them to be your best work, but we also want it to be work that shows off that you can do what you're saying you're going to do. Relate it to your project. It doesn't have to be your project. We just want it to show that, if you are a writer and you're applying to paint things, that's kind of a weird thing. So your work samples, we want to make sure that even though you're primarily a writer, you can paint and that you'll be able to accomplish this project. And then, so for 2 of our funding streams, we have extra ingredients. So if you're applying for our dramatic short film microgrant, there's also a place for you to upload your film script or your detailed script outline. If you're not applying for the dramatic short film microgrant, please skip that question. It is not relevant to you. And also for the Arts for Mental Health Program Development microgrant, we've requested the project outline, including program outcomes and means of measurement. So it's a more detailed project description than what is in the form. And so we want you to upload a document that has a little bit more about your program in the form. Again, if you're not applying for the Arts for Mental Health microgrant, please just leave that question blank. It's not relevant to you. Okay.
There's a lot of questions.
Yes, I'm sure there are. Do you want to go for questions or do you want to walk through the web form and see if we answer any?
Let's go through the questions because there's a lot coming through. So I'm just getting back to one. It's asking when is the completion date. So you need to have your projects completed by Friday, September 30th. And then the final reports are due Friday, October 28th, which we talked about earlier.
So about a month later.
We do strongly recommend getting your materials ready ahead of time. They're listed in the guidelines. So get them ready, get them separately ready to go before you fill out the form. You should have all your materials ready before you fill out the form. I just want to reiterate that. And then I have another good question that maybe get you an answer, but
sure.
Is there a limit of what percentage the MAC grant can contribute to? For example, one grant they receive said their funds must be at least 30% of the total budget.
Very good question. So the only funding stream that we have a limitations to is our matchmakers. All of the other 5 funding streams, the MAC MicroGrant can be the entire budget. We have no limitations on how much of the budget. If you want it to be a part of your budget and go big, great. If you want, if our microgrant is enough to cover your budget, that's fine. It can be 100%. The limitation we have is our matchmakers. We will match up to 50% of your budget to a maximum of $2,000. So if your total budget is $4,000, we'll do 50%. If it's anything more than that, we can only go as high as $2,000. So hopefully that answers.
One more question. So should I list free public performance on the grant application or could I include only in the final report? I can probably answer that, but yeah. Yeah,
so in section 2, we do ask for about the free public experience. If somehow in your project it changes, like you're, right now you say it's going to be in person, but then things change and you want to do it virtually, that's fine. But give us the best idea you have for your public performance exhibition. Now give us as much as you can.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a question in the form that you'll have to fill out with that information.
So I do have a couple questions about work samples. So
Yeah, sure.
for example, one is, can I submit a reel as one of our samples, or should they be completed work samples? Most likely talking about the film.
Film. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think reels are absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It shows your best work. It also shows a nice variety of work and sort of a range of what you're capable of. So I think it's absolutely relevant. I mean, if it's a 2-hour reel, the jury is not going to have time to look at it. So do keep that in mind. But anything shorter.
Yeah. This is a similar question that's also with so regarding literary. So they're asking how many pages. I would say no more than 10 pages or even less for work samples. It just goes with the same thing that Susan just said. Don't be submitting long periods of work or long pages of stuff. The jury has a lot to review. Make it short, concise, your best work, I would say, as work samples.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go through anything else. How many words for a bio?
I don't think we've put a limit on it. But normally if MAC is going to be using your bio for something, we tend to do 50 to 100 words, something really short. In this case, it's a document upload. So if you want to be a keener, we highly recommend give us your short bio, maybe 150 to 300 words.
Yeah, great. Right. I think I've gotten everything. If I haven't, please put it in the chat below. We're trying our best to just respond to everything. Or if you have any other questions, please put it in the chat. Like I can go through the job form.
Sure. I just pulled it up. So
okay, great.
So I can do that for you. So let's have a quick walkthrough of the application form. I know it's a lot of information and Susan droned on about 16 different things you need to apply. Once you see the form, it won't be so bad, I promise. So this is what it looks like here. We're in jot form. This is just, again, sort of an intro page. We can go next. So this is part 1, the contact information. So fill it in. Actually, we should have used the fill it yourself. Whoops. Fill it in quickly. Address. And you'll notice too, it's expecting certain things. And if it doesn't get it, it catches it quickly. All right, 1, 2, 3, address. Street. I think that's actually our postcode code. And so here's a question. I didn't really address it in previously, and that is, what is your Marty's Hub artist profile link? So if you are a member of MAC, you've probably heard of Marty's Hub before, which is great. It's our online artist profile. If you are not a member of MAC, that's okay. You do not have to be a member of MAC to get a microgrant from us. But if you are a member of MAC, you're entitled to a free Marty's Hub profile, and you can fill it in here. If you don't have one, you can just type in none, and that's fine. And then you'll need to pick which funding stream you'd like to apply for. So I'm going to apply for Arts for Mental Health. Next. Okay, now we get into the project information. So project title is, what's our project title, Sherry? Arts for Mental Health. Great. Elevator pitch. Again, there's a, where it doesn't have to be that exciting. This is so watch me with my typos. Okay, detailed project description, 300 words. It's not too much. Project personnel and partners. Type in, Sherry is helping me on this one. How will this project help the artistic career of those involved? You can fill it in. What's the artist connection to Mississauga? Fill it in. And you'll notice they all have word counts. You don't have to fill up the whole word count, but it will limit you if you try and talk a little too much like I do. Here's the schedule work plan. So please note, you can also upload these documents in the next page, and that's fine. So if you decide to, I want to upload documents, so I'll say, please see attached. Do that here as well, because my communications plan, I have a PDF, it looks beautiful, and I'm going to upload it in the next section. Again, my budget, I have a separate document, so I'll do that. And then yes. And then we get to page 3. This is our support materials. So website here, website.com. So now it's all of the upload files. So we can upload our artist CV. There you can see all of my files. So I'm pretty sure I have it set for a Microsoft Word or a PDF document. Again, the biography here. If there are multiple creative leads on the project or work leads, you can combine everyone's bios and include it as one document. Then we get into our work samples. Again, it's a total of 3, not 3 files plus 3 links, total of 3. We only need 3. Make it your best work, make it the most relevant work. Again, you can upload files here, or you can just type in links in this section, and that's fine too. We've given you space here. So you'll notice if I scroll down, we have these extra files. Remember the dramatic short film, we have an extra requirement, and the arts for mental health, we have an extra requirement. But just before that, we have a section where this is where you can add your communications plan, your work schedule, or your budget documents if you've chosen to upload them. So that's right here, this first additional document. You can also, if there's a piece of research or another report you've done, or photos of a previous implementation of your project that you think really adds value to your application, you can include it here. You don't have to include anything. I think there's enough information on this form that our jury will be able to really get an idea of what your project is and how impactful your project is. But if you feel that there's more information needed for the jury to consider your project, there's room right here for that. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, next, there's just a declaration. Yes, it's correct. And then here's that review or print. So I'm going to review. And then I can go through and I can see everything that I've filled out and just make sure that it's all correct. You'll see my detailed project description is not very exciting, so I'd probably want to go back and fix that. You can see what you've uploaded, make sure it's correct. If it's not, click back to form and you'll have a chance to go back and edit. If you want to print a copy of it for your own records, which we highly recommend, you can click print. And if you're happy with everything, at that point, you can click on submit. Are questions exploding in the chat there, Sherry?
Not at the moment. I have one. What are considered multiple leads?
Multiple leads?
Multiple leads.
Oh, right. So sort of a lead on a project. Basically, if it's my project, I thought of the idea, I'm doing the work on it. I'm, in the theater world or the film world, it would be the sort of the director, right? It's your vision, it's your project. That would sort of be the creative lead. If I was, for something like the theater in the park, if it was a writer and a theater producer working together collaboratively, that would be 2 leads or 2 project leads. So that's sort of where I was going with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that makes sense.
And then a question more about the jot forms. So does the form reset itself after an hour or a day? That's
a very good question that I do not have an answer to. So send me an email if you're interested. We can do some research. If you are filling it out and you don't have your answer saved somewhere else, I would be very wary because computers have a tendency to shut themselves down or to go to sleep and then lose things, or it refreshes your browser and it's gone. So I would make sure to save it in a separate document.
Yeah, and this is why we said prepare the materials ahead of time so that when you're filling it out, you have everything, you're good to go.
Exactly. Okay, any other questions about the web form or any of the application materials? This would be a great time to ask.
Why does the form not have a save function? Good question. We're going to look into this. But like we said, prepare the materials ahead of time. You're able to fill it out. And if there is any technical errors, please do let us know. We're trying something new and we think it will work well. And let us know. Feedback is always appreciated. Are we supposed to bring our own revenue? We're just talking about in kind. Absolutely. So our Matchmaker MicroGrants, you need to include some revenue that is not just the MAC MicroGrant.
That could be a donation, it could be another grant or another sponsorship. But your entire budget should not be the MAC MicroGrant. So some other revenue. For any of the other funding streams, the Matchmaker MicroGrant can be the only funding stream or funding source that you have, and that's okay. Great. Okay, we can still come back to it. Let's move on. So you're eligible, your project's eligible. You've gone through our application form and you've submitted everything. What's next? Next, MAC puts together an independent jury to evaluate the assessments. It's more than one jury. We'll make sure that we have industry leaders who specialize in each of the different subjects. That said, don't assume that the jury knows everything about dance on the dance jury. They probably do, but don't assume. There could be people who are, leaders in the industry who know about your artistic discipline, but are maybe not experts. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're writing it, is don't assume they know everything. But that said, we do reach out to artists and industry professionals to sit on our jury, and to ensure consistency and fairness. Each peer assessment jury uses the same scoring criteria and across all funding streams. The decision of the jury is final and confidential. So what is the jury looking for? The peer assessment committee will evaluate all applications based on the following elements: impact and innovation of proposed project. How exciting is your project? How original is your project? Those are the things we're looking for there. Qualifications and experience of the applicant to undertake the proposed project. So again, we're looking at your CV. Are you capable of doing the project that you've proposed? We're not saying that you shouldn't stretch yourself artistically, but like I said before, if you're a writer and you're talking about teaching painting classes, you're going to need to back that up somehow. Why are you qualified to do this? They're also going to look at artist development. Is this project going to help your career or your artistic growth? Will it help the career or the artistic growth of those involved in your project? They'll also be looking at connection to the community. How will your project impact Mississauga, the Mississauga arts community, and audiences in Mississauga? Then they're also going to look at the attainable project schedule and work plan. So can you actually accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in the time frame you've been given and the time frame you've set for yourself? Finally, they're going to look at your budget and make sure that your budget is realistic. And they're in the budget, again, most of these funding streams, we want to see that you're paying artists for their work. So do keep that in mind as well. Okay, what are the next steps? Or any questions about assessment before we run off of that one? No, not one. Great. Okay, so next steps. The next step, after we sign off this meeting, we're not quite done, don't worry. Make sure you get the guidelines and information. Again, everything we've talked about are in the guidelines. There's also a frequently asked questions page that you can review that might have more information. You can download it here. There's the link on the screen. You can also find it if you go to MississaugaArtsCouncil.com and you click on MicroGrants in our programs menu. And then on the MicroGrant page, if you scroll down a little bit, you can download the guidelines. There's a couple buttons on that page for you to do that. After you've read through the guidelines, after you've reviewed this video, after you've sent us any questions you still have, then go to the web form. So you can see here, form.jotform. Go to that link. Again, it's available on our website. It's available through the guidelines. We can email it to you if you need. And again, on our website, you can find it MississaugaArtsCouncil.com, MicroGrants in the programs tab, and then apply for a microgrant is the button. And then fill out the web form as we just went through, and you'll be set. So when are the deadlines? The deadline for all microgrant applications across all 6 funding streams is Monday, May 2nd by 5 p.m. At 5 p.m., the web form will close. So make sure you get it done by then. Don't leave it to 4:59. Get it done early. No late submissions will be accepted, and no submissions through email or any other forms will be accepted. It has to go through this web form. If you need help with the web form, that's okay. We're here for you. Let us know how we can help. Wow, we got through it. I talk fast, don't I? Okay, I think that's about all we have to know about microgrants. Maybe. I'm sure there's a lot more questions, so please feel free to ask. And we can go back if you want to review previous slides again or review the funding streams again. We'd be happy to go back through the presentation and find those for you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming. We really, really appreciate it.